In the first interview of our Clatsop County Voices campaign, PJ Angelini, Public Affairs Officer for Clatsop County, spoke with Bob Boehmer. He told the stories that have been passed down to him about his cabin in Arch Cape.
My name is Bob Boehmer. My wife Joyce and I are residents of Arch Cape, where we retired in 2020.
So Bob, can you just take us back to when your grandparents first bought the land in Arch Cape? Tell us the story behind it.
During World War II, my dad and two of his brothers were fighting in different theaters during the war. And Victory Mail, V-Mail, was really slow. And my grandfather wanted to have some message of optimism to send to his sons to give them something to look forward to when they got back to the States. So my grandfather during the war drove down to the northern Oregon coast a number of times to find a piece of property. And interesting to note, at that time, the way he would go from Portland is he'd go up into Washington and come across at Longview and come down through Seaside and then head north up 101, which was a fairly arduous trip that he took a number of times. And he finally found some property in Arch Cape on the east side of the highway that was available, as I'm told, through a county foreclosure sale. And he bought during World War II what was at that time 6 lots for the grand total of $25. My dad, when he returned to the States, he was looking to find himself, and he and my grandfather, along with my uncles and my aunt, constructed a cabin on the front of the property right next to 101, and that cabin still stands. The land was heavily forested with really gigantic old growth Sitka spruce. At the time that my grandfather and grandmother acquired the property, they literally cleared the space for the cabin and did it with those big old crosscut saws and did it on their own without any help of hired hands of any kind. And then they built a bunkhouse on the property that was where they slept when they were staying there to work on the property. Everything was done by hand, and it was done in a period that there was still shortages of materials because of the war. The cabin was built from just an amalgamation of scrap materials that my grandfather and his kids could scrounge. And I had always been told that a lot of the lumber came from pallets that had been used for shipping of pianos. And when Joyce and I retired here, we were taking down a old wood pile that's up against a shed behind the cabin. And lo and behold, leaning up against the cabin were 2 wooden pallets. And these 2 pallets had not been disassembled, but on them you can still visibly see the stamp of the manufacturer, Steinway Pianos, and a few other shipping marks. But it's just amazing to me that those things could have survived outside in the coastal weather for well over 70 years, and we have them in there and they're still intact. During the Depression, my grandmother had developed, largely I think because of availability of the ingredients, a dish which all of her sons and her one daughter had come to love, in which thereafter always got served at family events like this. And so I still remember Joyce's first introduction to the family was eating noodles and prunes. My grandparents didn't have much money during the Depression, and they could probably get their hands on the two key ingredients pretty readily. And so she just convinced her kids that it was a delicacy, and then convinced us of the same. If it was really a special event, she would add bacon to it. So it would be noodles and prunes and bacon. Joyce and I, of course, regularly came to Arch Cape for vacations or family events. And early on in our marriage, talked about the fact that someday when we retired, we would live at Arch Cape. We're really lucky that that's a reality now.
This is wonderful. I mean,
Yeah.
you've told some fabulous stories.
Fun to recall, so thank you.
Oh, absolutely, my pleasure.